Hello, welcome back everybody. Do you feel that in your dystopian world you have to question exactly where you've come from, what you're doing, and who to trust? Well, I actually feel that such an experience may be adequately emulated in this video game, but this is only the first hour of me experiencing this, so take what I say with at least a pinch of salt. However, ICEY is the name of the game. Today we're going to be looking at one woman's journey, based on what the player chooses and how she finds herself, as the game adequately describes. So this is a game made by a company called Blade Network, and this is the kind of game that would be quite meta, which isn't a problem on its own. I do feel that sometimes the game, with it being meta, does do it a little too much. It's a bit on the nose. In fact, it does advertise it as being such a game on the Steam store, which isn't too bad. Again, I'm more of the person that likes the kind of thing that it plays. If it's going to be a meta game, it would do the opposite, and you know, pretends that it's a leak or something. I like that. That's funny. But regardless, that's not really important. It actually came out in 2016. Actually, as of recording this video, this will actually appear. No, actually, right now, today is the 16th of November, and what's funny about it is that tomorrow, when this video will be released, it'll be 7 years old. Isn't that crazy? I didn't even anticipate this, by the way. I just saw this as I'm recording this take, so bear with me here. But that's the funny bit. But anyway, let's actually get into the game. So, this is a 2D game, and it's more of your hack and slash character action kind of game. And for the most part, I would say that it is a pretty enjoyable experience. Mainly because that the gameplay itself, the interactions between you and enemies are quite honed down. It still needs a bit of work, a bit of refinement. However, I feel that they've got a good base here. Should they want to continue it and work on it a bit more, then I absolutely encourage that, because this seems quite good for the little bit that I've played. The gameplay involves you just getting moves, as you would normally do. You'd buy moves. And yeah, you traditionally have a list of all the different moves that you could perform, and some of them, you know, would be locked until you got a prerequisite, or at least enough money to be able to get it. But you have all your set moves that you can do, as well as the button combination to go and use it, which is great, because at least then you actually know what to do with those tools and how to use them. It just makes it so very simple, very little need for menus. However, with it being pretty good, having a good base, there are still a few issues with it. The main one that I found is that one of the main gameplay aspects is to gain health back, you don't have health pickups. What you do have is a little window when you've damaged the enemy sufficiently to take their life and to add it back to yours, so you'll just gain health by executing them in this very splashy move. You would say that it is sort of like Metal Gear Rising in that instance, because you take from one and you give it to yourself kind of thing. I'm purely mentioning Metal Gear Rising because it is still quite prevalent in internet culture, which is quite cool actually. But it is, you know, something like that for this specific mechanic anyway. But it does have a bit of a delay on inputs, because when I tried to use it, I'm unsure whether it's because I was stunned at the time, or whether it's because there was another factor that I wasn't aware of. But there seemed to be like at least a half a second between me pressing the button and the input being recognized. So I can't necessarily say what it is, or how it's been, or how it's caused. But it does mean that I have to slow down a little bit to at least be able to use that execution finishing move, whatever it is, to heal back up again. And it does, you know, in a game like this, I don't feel that that's very good. It does mean that to get taken out of the experience in the bad way. Again, not in the meta way, just in the bad way. But other than that, there's no major issues with the gameplay so far. I feel like I've had a good romp ripping through enemies and stuff like that, and I feel that It's, the progression's very simple, but it is effective. You don't need to make it super complicated when it doesn't need to be. And I feel that with this game feeling simple but quite intuitive, it serves its purpose very well, actually. So gameplay-wise, I quite enjoyed myself. Before I do move on, I've got to talk about the bosses briefly. So there are a variety of bosses that you can encounter. You can see some on the Steam store, but they're quite later on in the game. But one of them, he specifically, he doesn't actually, it's not mechanically as developed as some of the other ones that I fought. Because when you fight him, he has a big hammer, and he, as far as I experienced, he only did a couple of attacks throughout the entire fight. It's a bit disappointing. He's meant to teach you that you should just be, you can attack enemies while in the air, which is quite fine. I quite accept that. But he only did, again, a couple of attacks. It was very easy to dodge, and it meant that I can just stay directly next to him, because his other attack is he just uses cluster bombs or something like that, and it just rains fire down on the rest of the arena, apart from where he stands, because I don't think there's any bombs where he stands, but I could be wrong there. So I can just stick right next to him and damage him, and then I use my dash when I need to, and then he's dead. There is some of the bosses, there are definitely weaker, but at least they have a nice visual design to them. Gorgor is one of the ones that are at the moment the most visually apparent and set apart from the rest. I quite enjoyed his gameplay. Did take me a death to figure out how exactly he played, but it's essentially the thing of, well, if you've got these attacks down, you cycle through this plan that you've made yourself. What that'll be is up to you, but they don't have many attacks. They're quite simple to defeat, and it's really about maintaining the arena rather than focusing on a boss, because usually they'll bring in minions to help with them. Not all the time, but sometimes they can. And they're good enough. I don't think that they're really missing anything essential, but I do feel that they just, again, need to be tightened up a bit, need to be reworked a little bit, just to make sure that they flow the best that they can. But moving on, the story itself, this, as I said, this is the kind of game where you'll be facing a lot of meta-narrative, and yeah, it's pretty entertaining to say the least. I was originally going to leave everything to be found by you, the viewer, should you go into the Steam store and buy this game. By the way, the link is down in the description, so you may want to go and check that out. But I'll spoil one of them, just one, because this one was actually something that I'd want to briefly talk about. So one of the endings you could get was where the developer would describe their, at least part, a very small part of the stages they were at while making the game, and why they rejected certain design choices, which is very interesting, because I don't think they had conversations between the player and the developer. They don't happen that often. So I think this was very valuable, in my opinion, honestly. And, you find them off the beaten path. You have to go and look for them a bit, but they're not that hard to find, because the level design, it's limited, but it's not that bad, actually. So yeah, there are endings like that. I quite enjoyed it. I just think that, having discussions between player, between developer, just disregarding the game, especially with it being meta, I think that's quite a brilliant thing, honestly. That should be welcomed more, I think. But anyway, that's besides the point. You get these different endings, smaller endings, but that's only when you diverge from the main path, and usually that's in the form of a narrator, which tells you to go one way, and you can either obey him or not. Again, akin to the Stanley Parable, but again, I'm only using these examples because they are somewhat popular. I imagine that a lot of people would know of the game, and this is why I'm not using something more obscure, but I imagine like a lot of these games would have done a similar thing already. Additionally, the levels that you go through when doing the story, they're quite nice, actually. I think one of my favorite parts about level design is the backgrounds themselves. They do feel like a painting, actually. It's got that certain organic feel to it. I did originally think, oh, it's an oil painting, of course, but really I had no way to tell the difference. I don't know why I'm saying when I originally thought that, but it definitely seems like a painting of some sort. But it's good, honestly. There's that visual distinction, and you know, I quite appreciate it. It's always in the little things that it comes out. And yeah, the design of the character is also quite cool as well. She does remind me of Life from Snowbreak Containment Zone, which, if you don't know, that is a gacha game. But that, you know, as you can see, they do bear some sort of similarities to each other. And that was one that immediately. That was the kind of character that immediately made me think of. You know, she's Life basically, but younger, and got a sword. Yeah, but honestly, I quite enjoy it. She's not a bad character to look at, and as a main character, trying to find her way in this big world of truth and lies. Yeah, this is pretty good actually. Quite a nice insight for the player, and again, with her being basically a machine of sorts, you know, it does well with her fleshing out her character, but still leaving a lot behind for you to go and fill in. Well, yeah, a thing that I should also mention as well is that the game also has native controller support, which is excellent, because for this kind of game you'd really want it, and I quite enjoyed that. So I use it, for example, I use an off-brand Xbox controller, had no problem using that, and yeah, it was quite flawless actually. I think you can actually play this with keyboard, but for a better experience, I would suggest playing it on an Xbox controller, because it feels a lot better than a keyboard. But that's my own opinion, of course. I know there are some psychopaths that like to play some certain games with keyboards, and you know, no, just stop it, please. But that's really it for the moment. That is the first hour of ICEY. Very brief overview of the game. I didn't realize it was this old actually, but by the time you're seeing it, it'll be the game's 7th anniversary. So I really do hope that you go and have a look at it, and just try and give it a go. You know, absolutely get it. It's quite good fun, I would say. Quite enjoyable. Definitely a lot they can build off of. And I very much enjoy it, and would recommend you go give it a try, especially with the price that it's on at right now. So thank you very much for watching. It is a bit of a shorter side of the content, and very short video and stuff, but I want to try and refine my editing style and stuff like that, so I will try and make sure that I will keep varying the lengths of reviews and stuff like that. But the first hour, I could make a series. I'm not sure whether there's going to be a thing yet. But if you want this to be a thing, let me know. If you like it, let me know. If you've got your opinions about the game, also let me know. All that jazz. So, there you go. There is ICEY. Well, alright. I have to say that this has been a pretty exquisite experience. Definitely expect a video on this. It's a pretty good game so far, I would say. It does need a bit more refinement, although I'm a bit curious as to what this would look like in 3D. I may not need to start development on a 3D version of ICEY, perhaps, but that'll be more of a side project. In the meantime, I will continue to play this. I definitely want to know more about this and see if I can get through this and shit like that, you know. There are many different loose ends that I need to reach. And there are, you know, quite a few branching paths, it seems. So, along with the rewarding combat at the moment, it's pretty good. I would say it's definitely worth the $8.99 that I did not pay that. Let's just nip that in the bud. I paid £3 something for this, and $8.99 is the RRP for this. I do consider it a worthwhile purchase. You will get something out of it. I think that I will probably make another video on this. Probably. Uncertain, but what is certain is I'll keep playing this in my own free time, just as a bit of a different thing, you know. I look forward to it, very much so. Anyway, I appreciate you all coming here to watch the video. Thank you very much for watching all the way through and shit. And again, the link is in the description for the game if you want to buy it, because at the time of this video recording, it's on sale, so get it while you can. And I will see you next time.